Go.
Look what you made me do! Now, regretfully, we are on to the bad areas of the story. There is a lot of it, I have to say. I do like this story overall. I think there aren't many Doctor Who stories that I would say I hate. But there are some elements of every story that constructive criticism that we need to take on board for future development, even though this series is completed and John Nathan Turner is no longer making Doctor Who. But yeah, the plot. I deliberately sort of skipped over the plot in my good because it wasn't very good. The plot very easily. I know this is a lot of people complain with Classic Who. I've never really felt it until I watched this story. Is that the plot feels massively overstretched. I think the only other time that I've ever felt like a plot being overstretched in a Doctor Who story is with certain 4-part stories, and I mean like 1 or 2 that I've seen, and 6-part stories. I always tend to feel that 6-part stories are overstretched. I think the only 6-part story that's kept me engaged beginning to end is Genesis of the Daleks. I have never thought classic 6-part episodes would work. Trial of a Time Lord is sort of very different. I guess we could talk about that. That's 14 episodes, but not right now. We'll do that when another, in the future maybe. Who knows? But yeah, this plot feels overstretched massively and bland. There doesn't seem to be much happening at all throughout the entire thing. It also feels very uninteresting and just something happens and that's it, and it's not really that interesting. Just nothing really happens. The Doctor just saves a load of people from clones and, you know, alien lizards, essentially. Sorry, there's some noise coming from up. Someone's coming up the stairs with some heavy load. But yeah, the villain. I didn't mention the villain. I did think the whatever they're called, the main species on Argolis, the planet that they go to with the leisure hive. They were the sort of the giant wigs and the sort of yellow paley face. David Haig was in this. I forgot to mention David Haig. He did Killing Eve recently, and it was very funny. It's weird to think that he played Bill from Killing Eve, and he also played the child of the generator in this story. It's very weird to think, because they're very different characters, and I would not have made the connection at all. But yeah, the villain of this story is not, well, but I guess you could say it was Pangle, but it was really, there was this, they were called, I don't know, they were just sort of like weird things with weird. I've only watched this story once, leave me alone. There were just sort of these weird creatures, and I think this was where the costume design didn't really work, because it was basically this guy in a massive sort of weird Halloween costume, and it didn't really work out at all. It just sort of looked a bit fake. Whereas like a lot of Doctor Who monsters, like from classic era, like the Zygons and so on, and the Daleks feel very real, but with this you could very much tell there was just a man wearing a fabric Halloween costume is all I felt from that. I didn't find it anyway scary. I didn't feel any present from it. Obviously there was a lot of them, and some of them were good and some of them were evil. And of course Pangol is the ultimate villain, but Pangol, bless him, is the best thing ever to grace this planet. But yeah, Pangol. But Pangol still works, although it does feel a bit like a spoilt brat at points. But and he can be a bit cringy, but we love him, bless him. It does. I think having watched this story and the next story, I can say that these 2 stories in particular do feel like they're still a mishmash of the sort of stupidity and sort of annoying elements of the season 17 era, with the ridiculous plots and weird, just quite frankly laughable monsters. It was just very, very bad at points. I think the villain and the whole concept was a bit too out there, and it did feel very much like it was leftovers from season 17. It does achieve that serious elements that it tries to go for with this sort of more serious attitudes, but it doesn't really come into its own until later in the season where we get to review. I will tell you when it happens, sort of. But it does feel still a bit in that era. Lala Ward, I do like Lala Ward. I thought she was one of the better things. Her chemistry with Tom Baker was one of the better things of season 17. But here she just doesn't seem to work. I know that's probably because of what was going on between her and Tom Baker at the time. But she seems sort of underused and sort of sidelined in this story. Whereas in season 17 stories, I feel like she was more important and key to the plots. But here she just feels useless, essentially. But yeah, that's actually basically it, now that I think about it. There's actually a lot less negative things than I thought there were. It looks a lot more negative on paper, as you can see. Here, there's my notes. I'm just showing you this again. And there's the score. Spoiler! It's 6 out of 10. Ooh, 6 out of 10. So yeah, I reward this story with 6 out of 10, which currently is 60% if you can use the maths. It's very easy though, so it would have been very easy. I like to keep track of the percentage scores. I like to keep track of percentage scores. I do like percentages. They look much nicer on paper than a sort of out of 10, in my opinion. So yeah, I don't know if that's just because of Rotten Tomatoes or whatever, but I just like percentages now. Percentages are cool. But yeah, so I hope you have enjoyed this story. If you enjoyed it, good. I'm glad you found something to enjoy. I found things to enjoy about this story as well. Overall, I thought it was visually interesting, a great new look, fantastic score, costume design, and visual effects and stuff, but does feel quite bland and overstretched and a bit of a confused story, like elements of different sort of eras of the show all mished and mashed to start. It achieves from its get-go, like it's like the first part, I think, and the last part are most like season 18, I think, like the later half of it. And it does achieve that new look fantastically throughout with all the model shots and so on of like Argolis, and it does have that sort of more serious aim that they were going for. So I have to commend John Nathan Turner for doing this, actually. It's clearly quite an ambitious project, and I do appreciate them for making this story. And I will probably watch it again. I do like it. It's a very cheerful, upbeat sort of story. So yeah, 6 out of 10, not bad. It's not by any means a failure. It's very good. It's decent. It's a good watch. I'm sure I would recommend this to Classic Who fans. It's a lovely sort of trip down memory lane. It's not much, but it's like it's there and it's not doing anyone harm. But it's just a nice thing. This is a very nice little thing. I'm desperately trying to defend, because I feel guilty for saying all those bad things about it. But yeah, so that was this review of The Leisure Hive. My next review will be of Full Circle. No, not Full Circle, sorry. It will be of Meglos. Sorry for the confusion there. But yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this. I hope you've really enjoyed my season 18 reviews so far. I hope you're looking forward to the next one. I hope you enjoyed the skip the start. But yeah, so like, comment, subscribe. You can share this video if you want. Tag me. I have a Twitter account. You just find it if you search Hive Espresso. I would just, put links in it, but, it's bit annoying, but I'm sure I will at some point. But yeah, if you search Hive Espresso on Twitter, you can find me. So yeah, so if you want to share this video, have fun with that. I hope you've enjoyed it as well, and I'll see you at my next video. So bye. So, from the get-go, I know what they were trying to do with this series. I know the history behind this story is incredibly interesting. It's one of the most... It's sort of a Doctor Who oddity. Sort of a strange Doctor Who season. Because it's sort of... I think there hasn't been anything really like it since more recently with Season 10 of New Who. I think Season 10 is very much... the Season 18 of New Who, but there hasn't really been anything like this series, in other words, because this is a reboot within the original Doctor, as in like a relaunch. It feels fresh and new from the get-go. I think that's one of the positives of this story. Like, right from the moment with the opening title sequence, the visual effects of that entire sequence is incredible. Like, the way it just all comes together, and the Doctor Who logo, and Tom's face, Tom's amazing face. And I'm making loads of hand gestures to make this more enjoyable for you to review because you can't see my face. I don't know if you noticed that before, but yeah, hand gestures. So yeah, the series does feel fresh from the get-go. Like the whole set design, the costume design, all feels so new, and it's like a brand new toy, and it's experiencing this is very weird for me, because I know Doctor Who has developed so much since this point, but it still feels like something different, because I've never seen any of these shows. I had no idea what to expect from them, but I think Nathan Turner very much achieved that goal of trying to make this more science-based, and at the same time as bringing it back to its roots, but making it something new and exciting as well. So that was very interesting, something very unusual in terms of Doctor Who. Talking of costume design, my favourite Tom Baker scarf makes its debut in this story. I didn't know what to expect. There were a couple of jokes actually in I think it was something like the third part, where the Doctor is accused of murder and he's sort of led by his scarf to the dead body, and I was just like, oh my god, that's my scarf! That's my scarf! I was like, yes! That is my scarf, and that is legendary. I was so freaking out when I saw my scarf. I wasn't wearing it at the time, but I was like, oh my gosh, it's my scarf. This is an incredible moment. I know these are such cringy moments, but watching Classic Who, it was so nice. And there's a scene, that iconic moment on Brighton Beach, and it is iconic. The fact that I was able to make that skit based on that opening scene is so funny. I love that scene to bits. It's like one of K9's best moments by far. He goes fetch and he goes into the sea and explodes. I just love that. I just love that so much. And that wasn't the end for K9. He got so many legendary moments in this season. I suspect I will see them coming. Yeah, so that's an incredible moment. I loved that. So yeah, that does add to that fresh feel with the new costume design. Lala Ward's costumes feel, particularly in this very early episodes of this season, feel very like a brave departure from her more Edwardian style, sort of maybe 1600s sort of adventurer fashion that she wears in season 17. And she also wears some nice, some other dresses as well. She doesn't just wear some adventurous, but there's very much an element of past, sort of past times of fashion in her costumes. In some ways I wish they kept her Destiny of the Daleks costume, but I love seeing a variety of different costumes across the entire series. Particularly when what's her name, Mary Tam was wearing her. You see one extravagant feather dress for 1 week, and then a more equipped for outdoor sort of costume in episodes like the Stones of Blood and so on. But yeah, she has some her Brighton Beach sort of Victorian almost swimwear was very interesting. There's a variety of periods shown sort of in Romana's costumes. It's kind of funny. I love how she's wearing that same costume throughout the entire story. I thought that was funny. So she's just on an alien planet in a very Earth sort of costume, and it's very very Doctor Who. But yeah, so it does feel that the Brighton Beach sequence, it particularly on Blu-ray, is so different from anything on Classic Who that Classic Who has ever offered. That pitch perfect picture quality. I was just like, oh my goodness me, that is as crystal clear as Classic Doctor Who is ever gonna be. It's just incredible that they were able to do that sort of restoration, and the fact that I spent 5 minutes talking about this one scene is incredible. So yeah, the title sequence, Tom's face. I don't think Tom really ever fit the title sequence, if I'm honest. In some ways, I'm kind of glad that they didn't repeat the same mistake of introducing Jodie Whittaker. Say if you introduced Jodie Whittaker's title sequence into Series 10, it wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have met Peter Capaldi's Doctor. I think they kind of learned from the mistake that Season 18 made of introducing the next Doctor's theme music. And in a way, Season 10 is even more of an oddity than this, because it's a relaunch, but with the same showrunner. So it's a relaunch, but it still has those elements of sameness to it that the previous seasons have. Whereas the only way you can have another season like Season 18, completely down to note, is if Chris Chibnall wrote the next wrote his next. I don't consider Peter Capaldi's entrance into the show that Stephen Moffat wrote as a relaunch. I think it still feels part of that Matt Smith era, that Stephen Moffat era. Like in New Who, I think you don't have Doctors sort of different like eras. You sort of just have, and each era doesn't feel like a relaunch. You just have the writers' eras, in a sense. But with Classic Who, I think no matter how many times the writers changed behind the scenes, each Doctor felt the same, and they did change the writers periodically. And this is the first time in Who history where you felt that there was a difference in tone within the same Doctor's era, which I guess is something you could say from Series 8 to Series 9 of New Who sort of happens with Peter Capaldi, but not to the same extent that it happens here. Tom's performance in this is way more serious than he'd ever done in any of Who before. It was crazy. I was like, whoa, that is like showing some serious shade right there at some of the aliens. I was like, you are really like on edge at the moment. I think that's definitely in part down to the drama that I know was going on between him and Lala Ward at the time. I was like, damn. It was like he was like cool as ice the whole time. I was really confused because it was a bold departure from anything that Tom had done before, and it really worked. It really worked with his Doctor. There was still a tinge, a sort of spice of his previous self, but it wasn't to the sense where it was annoying. I think season 12, season 13, season 14, 15, 16. I think by the time it got to season 17, I think Tom's sort of silliness and sort of ridiculous. I do agree with Tom. I mean, John Nathan Turner in that respect, that it had gone out of hand. I do think that Tom was starting to own the show more than the actual people behind the camera were, and he saw his role as the sort of eccentric, ridiculous Doctor had overtaken. I think there's only one story from season 17 that I think that worked in, and that was The City of Death. I love The City of Death. It will always be one of the best classic Doctor Who stories, no matter that it's in a sort of weaker season, in my opinion. But yeah, so K9 really has some great moments. Tom's sequences, his chemistry really works. His performance is just so serious. But it still has that moments, those Tom Baker moments you expect from a Tom Baker story. I talked about the VFX. I read that they went way over budget with this story, and it shows, because I think this is the best looking classic Doctor Who story. The costume design, the sort of hair, the makeup, particularly with the aged Tom Baker when he gets put in the generator, when he gets aged, is very different from anything else that Classic Who has ever offered us before. It feels more like a New Who episode, sort of like the end of the world, or like a Russell T Davies sort of like second episode of the season sort of episode. It doesn't feel like an introductory in a sense. It feels more like a Classic Who season introduction, because he didn't really make a big fuss of a season premiere back then. It was just a normal story. Same with the finale, really. You didn't have a big finale. You just had another story on the end. There wasn't really any build-up, so it still works, but it does feel like a Russell T Davies episode 2, in my opinion. But it still works. The set design and everything is still it's visually engaging, certainly. But so yeah, so the costume design. Big shout out to June Hudson. She did a great job on this episode. Yeah, and the score I had to make. I'm trying to, because I want to dedicate 10 minutes to each story, and I'm about to go over 10 minutes. The score was so thematic and sort of tense and electrifying. It was incredible, particularly when the Pangle generates loads of himself, like clones himself. It obviously turns out to be the Doctor in the end, it's like blah blah blah, because he's in the machine. But the music that was playing it was like Doctor Who had finally sort of managed to find a way to challenge Star Wars at that point, I think. But by that point, nobody cared anymore. And it's shown in the video viewing figures that went down. That was more because of Buck Rogers, which is another show that was going on. I've been watching all the documentaries on the box set. I've been reading about it. I've got a book about the first 3 stories. I'm talking about the ratings battle between season 18 and Buck Rogers. It's very interesting. Yeah, the score was so thematic and tense, and it really added impact to scenes that needed it, particularly that Pangol moment where there's an army of Pangols. But yeah, I liked that very much. But now, I've praised this story, but as we all know, where there is good, there is evil. Okay, you guys, I'm back. I hope you enjoyed that short little skit at the front, inspired by the opening moments of The Leisure Hive, which is the story in which today I will be reviewing. I have planned out a little skit for all the upcoming stories that I'm going to review, so I'm sure you guys can look forward to that as part of my upcoming reviews as well. I was talking today about The Leisure Hive, which is the first story of the 18th season of classic Doctor Who, which I've more recently reviewed on my channel. There, the season 18 Blu-ray. You can go check out that video if you want to now. That will be on my channel page if you can find it. I'm also going to be reviewing future stories from this season, so that includes Full Circle, well that's not the next one, but Meglos, Full Circle, State of Decay, Warriors Gate, Keeper of Track, and Logopolis. I'm even planning a review for K9 and Company, you know. I'm looking forward to that. Especially given the skit that I just did with K9, I'm going to have to think of something even more amazing to do with K9, because that was just, yeah. But today, I've sort of divided my notes into the good and the bad. There's my notes. I've never shown you my notes before. I do tend to write up some notes before reviewing the story. I'm giving you my own thoughts. I tend to just have a quick moment to reflect upon the story. I'm sure. I just wanted to get all my thoughts on paper. So I have this time I've divided it into the good and the bad. I'm going to give you a cheat sheet because you know what I'm going to talk about now. But yeah, we'll go in depth now with me and the rest of this community. So I guess we can all look forward to my review. This review will contain spoilers for The Leisure Hive. So if you have not yet seen this story, if you the Blu-ray box set is available to buy now. The mini Blu-ray box set. The Blu-ray box set is available to buy now on Amazon, as well as Zoom, that stuff. It's still available. It hasn't sold out like the season 12 set, which is making pre-ordering it a bit more redundant now. But you know, it's still safer than sorry, especially if you want to get season 10. If anything to go by, maybe the 70s stories are the ones that sell out quicker than the 80s stories. Who knows? So yeah, that's my logic for pre-ordering all the different box sets. But yeah, so I guess we should get into this season 18 story 1 review, The Leisure Hive.